Okay. They were booming last week, so. Okay. Hello. Welcome to the RSU5 Board of Directors meeting. It is Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. Freeport High School Library. We have no Danielle this evening, but otherwise the full board, and we will get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, so we're going to flip-flop 5 and 4, right?
We are. There are some adjustments to the agenda this evening. First of all, number 4, consideration of the minutes. There will be a letter A to consider and approve the minutes from the June 5th meeting. If you go to number 8, letter A, there's another resignation I'll announce. We'll add a letter B. I have a retirement we're going to announce. If you flip to number 13, new business F, it says funding to come from Article 1 reserve account. That's actually Article 5 reserve account. You'll be voting on 5, not 1. And then 15, personnel. We are going to remove letter H. And that is it for this evening.
Okay. So, do I have a motion for consideration and approval of the minutes from the June 5th, 2024 meeting as presented, barring any errors or omissions? And the minutes are in your packet, and they weren't in your previous packet. So, if folks need a quick second to look over them, feel free. So, motion from Beth, second from Carolyn. People good to vote on that? I want to hurry people. Looks like people are still perusing. All right, folks good on that? All right. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you. All right. Now I put things out of order. Here we go. So we already did adjustments. Good news and recognition, none. It always makes me laugh. Good news, none. That's not true. The end of the year. Yeah, that's exciting. All right, so we will move on to number 7, public comments. I do see a member of the public.
Ray Grogan, Freeport Middle School principal. I just came to thank you all for 15 years that I've been with the RSU, and I am moving on, but I wanted to thank the school board. I've already thanked Jean for my time here, but the school board, all the different school boards over all the years have been incredibly supportive to all the kids, the district, and myself personally, and my kids going through the district. So just incredible thank you to all of you for the opportunity you provided me and my kids. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you on my way to my next venture. So thank you very much.
Ben said there's no tissues. Thank you, Ray. Did we have him as, or maybe he's under the the ones we're adding in 8. Okay. So now I'm all befuddled. Thank you, Ray. Seriously, 15 years is incredible, and you know the number of students you've moved through that school and prepared to come here to the high school is truly incredible, and I know you've impacted them all, and certainly I've enjoyed working with you in my 11 years on the board, and you know, both in the schools and everything you do in the community. So thank you, and we wish you luck. All right. Well, good luck. We will be watching from afar. All right. So moving on to 8.
Okay, 8A, resignations. I'm announcing the resignation of Abigail Levitt, Pownell Elementary School nurse, and also I'm adding Beverly Wynn, Moore Street School educational technician. And letter B, the retirement of Bill Holt, who is an Ed Tech 3 at Freeport High School, and wish all those folks all the best.
Where's Ray? He wasn't on last week. No, we found out on like Friday. Would you like to add?
I would like to add then the resignation of Mr. Ray Grogan, Freeport Middle School principal, and we wish him the best as he enters the assistant superintendency.
All right. We don't have any administrator reports, no board comments or committee reports, no policy review. Gosh, we're flying through. All right. 12, unfinished business. All right, so here's the motion. Okay, so I hate when they make it in first person.
Attorney.
Yeah. So I guess I'm making the motion, and someone's going to second it because it's starting with I move. So I move that the computation and declaration of votes dated June 12th, 2024, and attached hereto be approved. Further moved that the computation and declaration of votes be entered upon the record of Regional School Unit Number 5. Further moved that a certified copy of the computation and declaration of votes be sent to each of the municipal clerks of the member municipalities within Regional School Unit Number 5. Kelly. So I guess I made the motion and Kelly seconded it. And Kelly's going to tell us what we're voting on.
Okay. So what this is an actual computation declaration of votes. What we've done is we've collected the information that the clerks have reported officially through their clerk certificate that they file each year after the budget validation referendum and the annual budget meeting and the budget validation referendum. What I do want to point out on here is because you saw an email last night from the superintendent, the numbers are slightly different for one of the communities. So I'll start reading Durham's. Durham's is the same. Durham in the affirmative was 237 yes, and negative were 228 or no. So Freeport is where you'll see the change when the results were reported last night before they were actually certified, and when they were completing the sheet that was sent out to the board. I believe you saw the sheet as well. Unfortunately, the numbers for RSU5's votes got recorded in the Region 10 area of the spreadsheet, of the little spreadsheet here, and the Region 10 votes got put in the RSU5 area of this spreadsheet. So what we're reporting tonight and what you're seeing on the sheet in front of you are actually the official numbers, which are Freeport in the affirmative or yes, 615, and Freeport in the negative or no were 227. The town of Pownell in the affirmative or yes, 166. In the negative or vote no, 103. So the budget overall passes with a total affirmative or yes votes in 1,018 votes, and in the negative or no votes, total 558.
Thank you. So that might clear up some of the confusion around folks had about, and also, I know that we're voting on this and we don't have to vote on the Region 10 one, but that did pass in all three towns as well for their renovation project for the bridge. So,
and in more than just the three towns, it passed in all of the communities that it needed to pass in because, as you know, SAD 75 is part. In addition to Brunswick, SAD 75 is part, and SAD 75 has several different communities and municipalities that had to vote, but they all did a vote in the affirmative.
oh, good. I hadn't seen that yet,
Yes.
so great.
Yes.
Good news. All right. So these are the affirmative votes. Great news to see it passed in all three communities again this year. So we have a motion and we have a second. Any questions? Great. All those in favor? None opposed. All right, so I now move that the warrant for assessment and tax assessment schedule and notice of installments for each member municipality prepared by the treasurer for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025 be approved and be issued in the form presented to this meeting, and that the treasurer be authorized and directed to deliver to each member municipality its warrant for assessment of tax and its assessment schedule and notice of installments. Beth and Cheyenne, thank you.
Okay, so what you have in front of you, you have 2 pages for each community. The first page is the warrant for tax assessment, which is actually sent to the assessors for the each individual town. And what this does is give the breakdown of the total appropriated budget for the district that requires an amount that needed to be raised. That totals $32,772,983.84. And when we flip to the second page, it is actually sent to the treasurer of each community, because on the second page, it takes that $32,772,983.84 that needed to be assessed to the communities, breaks it down by community, and then for each community, we take the number, the annual municipal assessment, and divide it by 12. And then we create a schedule in which we are to receive payments from the member communities of RSU5. So you'll see, again, one for each community, one for Freeport, one for Durham, and one for Pownell. And these need to be signed by the board, and then they'll ultimately signed by the treasurer of the district, which is actually the superintendent. And then these will get probably U.S. mailed and scanned to the communities so that they can include it, 1, in their tax assessment, and 2, in their accounts payable for payments starting July 1.
Okay. Any questions? All right. All those in favor? Great. None opposed. All right, so we move on to new business, number 13. And so our first is do I have a motion for consideration and approval to authorize the superintendent to hire staff between June 13th, 2024 and the first board meeting in September 2024? Carolyn and Cheyenne, thank you. Do you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Sure. As we know, the board adjourns for the summer to take some well-deserved time off and rest, and we don't get back together until the end of August. And during this time, as you can imagine, you'll see a lot of folks I'm bringing forward to you this evening to hire, but there are a lot more vacancies that occur, or there may be some where people shuffle that we don't know about. This authority allows us to hire folks and not lose good staff. Because obviously people want to have a position in place. So if we, for example, have a teacher opening and we have to wait till the end of August, that puts us at risk of not getting a good teacher because they're going to take a job. They're going to take a job where they can get it, frankly, and it puts a burden on our schools because they're scrambling to figure out how, for example, it's a 6th grade teacher, how are they going to cover that when they don't have somebody in the seat prior to participate in professional development and get their classroom set up and so forth. So that's what that's about. And it's just until the board reconvenes, and then we go back and we present everybody to you again.
So this is a typical motion that we see every year for the hiring of staff. The only reason I wanted to raise the question is just to get the sense or feeling of the board, because while this is typically used for teachers and ed techs and nutrition and bus drivers, we do have several members of the administrative team that will likely be brought on over the summer. And this would extend to those as well. So I just wanted to make sure the board was comfortable with that. And sort of the alternative to take into account what Jean said about not losing people, if we chose to say we wanted to see administrators or we wanted to see certain of the administrative positions at the board level before they were hired, that would require us to have a board meeting. We certainly wouldn't want to wait until September to hire those folks because they would, in fact, move on to other positions. So, we kind of have two choices. Well, I guess three. We could approve the motion as presented, which is all staff between now and our board meeting. We could say any administrative positions the board wants to meet and have the presentation on those. Or we could say certain positions we want to meet and do that. So I just wanted to put those out as an option to the board. I mean, it would require meeting over the summer. It would require some flexibility to make sure, and hopefully, we can lump some together if the board wanted to see all the administrative positions. So we don't have to meet weekly, but I just wanted to see what folks thought was. Carolyn.
Can you give an update on the hiring of administrators at this point, and are there still hiring committees that will be meeting throughout?
Yes.
Beforehand?
For example, we're in different process, different areas. Like transportation is getting closer, I would say. School nutrition is just starting tomorrow, just starting the process. The assistant principals, you'll see one assistant principal tonight for the middle school I'll present to you. The other one, they're just meeting, their team is beginning to meet, so they're not ready yet. And for the principal of the middle school, they're not even going to meet till July because they're just not there. It's posted and they're in the process. And then that process, as we know, generally the committee meets and does their work before they bring candidates in. Then there's an interview process, then there's a vetting process, then there's candidates that come for a second interview. So they're all in various stages on that. We're at the point, second interviews for some and some that haven't started the process. So they're really all over the place.
And I think in all of these positions, we have historically had second interviews. And if Jean is not on the hiring committee, because sometimes it's Cynthia and sometimes it's Jean, if she's not on it, then she certainly does the second interview, and or the chair, is that for vote tonight as well, joins her in those second interviews. So there's different sets of eyes. And
I think the only exception is the assistant principals. Generally, we don't. But all other, if it's a director or a principal, any of those positions, the second interview, I invite the chair in for that as well.
Could you remind me they are very quiet tonight, when we get information about administrator positions, is that any different than or more than what we get for a staff position? No, it's the same.
so am I sensing folks are comfortable with the vote as presented? Yeah, I mean, these all have hiring committees, which have representatives from the board, have representatives from the administrative team, the schools, depending on what the position is. So, okay, I just wanted to sort of tag that and make sure everyone was comfortable understanding what we were voting on here. All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor? None opposed. Great. All right, so 13B, do I have a motion for consideration and approval of the Freeport High School testing coordinator stipend position pending stipend committee approval at their June 7th, 2024 meeting? So basically the agenda went out before the meeting met. So we just put the pending approval. So in case they didn't approve it at their meeting, which I actually don't know if they did or not, we would just strike B. I'm going to guess they did since it wasn't an adjustment. Okay. So that's the motion. Do I have, okay, Malik and Kelly, thank you.
So the committee did meet and vote on June 7th. There's information in your packet on a white sheet that's labeled 13B. And we had a conversation about the amount of time that it takes. It is a guidance counselor that does it to set up testing, to sometimes do the testing, to proctor, to get accommodations for students with IEPs and 504s, to communicate with students and staff and families and so forth. It's quite an undertaking. It's a large portion of their day that they do that with. We also had a conversation about, although some of this obviously has to take take place during the school day because we can't test the children if they're not here. Obviously, that means that pushes all that other work out later. So if you're a school counselor, for example, and you're doing this, you're not doing all those other things, those connections with kids, and so that you have to do later. So that's why the committee, it was recommended and approved by the stipend committee that it's the 10 plus point range for this particular position, and it was the request by the Freeport High School to be put in the budget this year.
Any questions? So just a little bit of information, because I'm not sure if we've seen a new stipend since some of the new board members have come on. So approving a new stipend and funding a new stipend are kind of separate things. So the approval of a stipend basically includes, going to the stipend committee, including the explanation of what the work is. So basically what you have here, a breakdown of the hours, which will determine the number of points it's awarded, and the points correspond with the payment for according to the contract. There's sort of buckets for how many points and how much you get for a stipend of that point. So basically the approval process puts a stipend as approved and to be included in the contract, but the funding of each stipend happens each year within the budgetary process. So this stipend was included in the budget for the upcoming year, but it hadn't been approved by the stipend committee. So it's sort of a two-step process. So this is to basically get it to be a new approved stipend, because this is not an existing position. So, any questions? More.
Thanks, Michelle. Could you remind me the stipend rates are part of the contract, right?
Correct.
Okay. So then when it's approved by the 10-point range, the stipend committee is just trying to figure out which range
Yes.
it will meet in that contract.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a couple of numbers per, 2 and 3 is this much, and 3 and 5 and 6 is this much dollars. So the stipend committee doesn't dictate how much money they're getting paid. They're just saying how many points it is, and then the contract will tell you how much those points are worth from a payment perspective. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions. All those in favor? Great. None opposed. While it seems hard to believe, do I have a motion for consideration and approval of a delegate and alternate to the Maine School Boards Association Annual Delegate Assembly at the annual fall conference? Beth? Kara? You're not volunteering yet, don't worry. You're just getting the motion on the floor. Okay, so in your packet, yellow paper is the dates of the delegate assembly for next year, which is Saturday, October 19th. It's interesting. It's before the annual conference this year. Isn't it usually after? Or is it usually before? I don't know. Since they split it from the conference, I guess maybe it's been before for the last couple years. So it's a Saturday morning. It's virtual. And for our new members who may not be familiar with what this is, so every fall the MSBA, puts on an annual conference for school board members. It's a 2-day event in the end of October, Thursday, Friday, up in Augusta. They have all these sessions and about everything: finance, special ed, law, just a variety of things all related to school boards and school operations. And then they use that opportunity in that same month, now that it's separate from that event, but to have the annual delegate assembly. So each member of MSBA, of which we are one, gets a delegate, and they vote on resolutions, right? That's what they're called? Yeah, the resolutions, for what they're going to be advocating for in the upcoming year. So sometimes they're new resolutions, sometimes they are amendments to existing resolutions, and really what it does is it just kind of guides the work of the legislative committee. of the MSBA in their work in the upcoming year. So in the fall, our board will get a copy of the proposed resolutions, and we'll talk about them as a group, and then we will instruct our delegate to vote yay or nay, depending on how we feel about them, or recommend changes or those sort of things. Maura can probably answer more detailed questions than me, but that's kind of the gist of it. So what we look for is we look for someone to volunteer that would need to be at that meeting virtually at 9:30, Saturday, October 19th, and then an alternate in case something comes up. Everybody have their calendar out, see if they're busy next October? Yeah. Are you busy? Oh. Okay. Colin has done it. Anything, you've done the virtual version of this, right? I've only done the in-person one, so.
Yeah, as long as it's virtual, I can definitely do it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay.
How long is this meeting usually?
7 days, no.
It's a couple hours, and you're not you're actively listening for most of the time, and then the time when there are times for votes, and then there are also times for when, if we've been instructed to submit any sort of revisions, that's what we do. But most of the time we're just sitting, listening patiently and calmly, and
Making
maybe
pancakes.
making a cake at the same time. But you don't have to. It's yeah, you don't have to. I found it very interesting. I would prefer not to do it this year. It's not because it's cool. Yeah, go for it. You like sitting attentively listening to actively listening. Well, bless, and I'm happy to chat with you about. I mean, but Maura also knows all the ins and outs of all of that. But it is very interesting. I mean, I've enjoyed it just as an interesting glimpse into the dynamics of like school boards around the state and the different issues that different school boards are facing, and where there is support and opposition to different issues that are coming across our plate. So it's a really interesting way to get a glimpse of that.
So I'm hearing Cheyenne volunteer as the delegate. I'm going to look to Maura to see, because usually you're there anyway, right? So have you been the alternate in case of emergency in the past?
Yeah, I think I was last year. I'm
Yeah.
happy to be the alternate.
Okay. Does anyone else want to be the alternate? In case Cheyenne is unable to fulfill her duties, you will get the crown and sash. No? Yeah. Okay, so I'm hearing Cheyenne as the delegate and Maura as the alternate. And we have a motion and a second already on the floor, yes? Okay. Any other questions, comments? And we'll talk about it more in the fall once we get those resolutions. But apparently Ginny's getting us lined up early. She is efficient. All right, so all those in favor? None opposed. Great. All right, so items D through G were dependent on the budget passing. Do you want to just give us a heads up on overall? You want to take them one by one?
We do one by one.
Okay. All right, so do I have a motion for consideration and approval to authorize the superintendent to hire a special education teacher at the Moore Street School for the 24-25 school year, 1 year only position, funding to come from Article 2 reserve account? Kelly? Kara? Whoever looks up and I make eye contact is kind enough to make my motion.
Okay, so I'll provide a little information on this. This position was placed in reserve account as we were uncertain of the actual needs of the incoming children from CDS until the transition meetings were completed in May, and that doesn't occur until May. And based on our assessment of incoming need of the children, this position is needed. This is a 1 year only position. If it's not needed next year, it will not be requested.
Questions? Okay. So I'm just curious, because obviously this is the CDS meetings for the Freeport kiddos coming into Moore Street. Did we not see an increase in the other two schools, or was it just we were able to
Not
scoop
to the
them in.
degree
Okay.
that we've seen at Moore Street. It's the number of children, but also the needs of the children much higher at Moore Street, the group we're getting.
Okay. Beth.
So we're voting to give her approval. We're not voting on a specific candidate at this time, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because there were a lot of those, and okay. Thank
Yes. So basically, what we did when we set up the reserve accounts at the annual budget meeting, and that is where those were officially created. Like the creation of the budget, or the approval, or the not approval of the budget yesterday, really had no impact on those reserve accounts. Those were the legislative body, which is the annual budget meeting, created and put those into existence. But when we did that, what we said was that if we were to use them or access any of those reserve accounts, the board would be informed and vote to do so. So that is this. We are voting to move those funds from the reserve account into the budget in order to fund this position. Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor? None opposed. Great. All right. So do I have a motion for consideration and approval to authorize the superintendent to hire a grade 5 teacher at the Mass Landing School for the 24-25 school year, 1-year position, funding to come from the Article 1 reserve account? Beth and Carolyn, thank you.
Okay. This position was another one placed in reserve account to be hired if the enrollment warranted. Principal Grimm and I have been monitoring closely the enrollment at Mass Landing. We've been watching if children are leaving. We've also analyzed historical summer enrollments for the school. And over the last 3 years, we've averaged a net gain, meaning kids go out who come in of at least 18 students. Last year, if you remember, we waited and we attempted to hire a teacher to support class size reduction in August, and we were unsuccessful, as the best candidates have already accepted other positions. This, again, is a 1-year only position. If it's not needed next year, it will not be requested.
And this is in addition to the grade 4 teacher that was funded in the regular budget.
Correct.
And there is space for another classroom.
There is, and remember, we also have our Laugh and Learn. Our program is now, we have an early childhood center there at Mass Landing, so they're out of that space. So there is actually a space for a teacher.
Okay. Any questions?
I just want to, I guess, one an acknowledgement, and then I guess a question related to the acknowledgement, that we, the board received a letter from a number of staff members at Mass Landing, encouraging us to pass this. I don't have that letter in front of me, but I just was curious if there was anything that anyone remembers from that letter that, in term, I mean, I think in general, it was sort of, the spirit of it was basically, we think we're going to need it, and then your analysis with Emily is like, we need it. But I just wanted to acknowledge that it definitely had that support, but I didn't know if anyone else had any recollection of any of the particular details that were relevant to this vote.
My recollection of the letter was that it mostly talked about the benefits of maintaining manageable class sizes to deliver the kind of education that we strive to deliver here in RSU5. And then just some examples and details around that. Yeah, Kara.
So based on enrollment in 4th grade right now, is there an inclination that we will need this, that 5th grade position again?
Well, we have to, it's really the wild card is sort of those incoming 3rd graders, because we know we added a 4th grade teacher. So unless we lose a lot of kids when they move to 5th grade, we would still need a position. So it's really looking at what's moving up the pike to see if we still need all of those.
Right. So can you clarify again how many 4th grade teachers and classes there will be, and how many 5th grade classes there will be next year?
We have, for next year, Kara. So for next year we have 3 5th grades, and that's what we've had. The board added another 4th grade teacher in the local budget. That was a request that's in your local already. So there'll be 5 next year, and it'll be the same with this position. There'd be 5, 5, 5.
Yeah.
So I mean, 5 and 3 and 5th grade. 5 and 3rd grade. It's 5, 5, 5.
Okay.
5,
5 third grade classrooms,
5
5
fourth,
fourth grade, and 5
5
fifth
5th
grade.
grade with
Okay.
this position.
Okay. And so
This
this
year
and
you
this
got
is a
5, 4,
1-year
4.
position. So
Yes.
if we didn't hire the following year, that would be 4 fifth grade
Correct.
classrooms.
Correct.
But based on the current 4th grade need for 5
But
classes.
it might be, let's say, I'll give an example. Let's say 2nd grade from Moore Street. Next year, 2nd grade moving into 3rd. There were a lot fewer numbers. You could say, I'll move a 3rd grade teacher to 5th grade.
Got it.
And so
Thank
we
you.
Can, we,
Okay.
can, we can do those shuffles too if we can.
Okay. Thank you.
But I will say it's rare that once we add that next spot that we don't continue with it.
That is that is true. I do know. I think Durham, maybe a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, there was actually a reduction because there wasn't a need. But oftentimes, once you add it, and if you're looking at the enrollment, this isn't really enrollment based. It stays. That is 100%.
But this pretty much fills Mass Landing. There's not extra. I mean, 5, 5, 5 would.
We would have to look when we do our strategic planning process. We need to. That's one thing that we need to look at. We need to look at capacity in our buildings, thinking outside the box, because we get a huge influx. We don't even have physical space. Well, they are tapped for physical space.
Okay. Any other questions on E? All right. All those in favor? None opposed. Great. All right. F. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to authorize the superintendent to hire a .5 guidance counselor at the Durham Community School for the 24-25 school year, 1-year position, funding to come from Article 5 reserve account? Maura and Malik, thank you.
As you know, in the budget, we requested a .5 guidance counselor to be added in the local budget for Durham. We have had that position posted for quite some time right now, and unfortunately, we've just not been able to attract a significant pool of candidates. Part of our belief is that it's a .5 position, and the board did add monies for a .5 guidance in the reserve account to make it a 1 FTE, and we believe this is our best chance at attracting a really larger pool of qualified applicants.
And this eliminates the need for Will to cut people in half, right?
Yes, Will does not have to, he doesn't have to cut anyone in half.
My only question was the addition of the other halftime, was that only a 1 year in the regular budget?
So it is, the tricky part is in the local budget, the halftime is a recurring one. This part would be a 1 year only.
Why?
Because it's in a reserve account.
I guess I need a little more.
Yeah. So thinking that if the, and that's tricky to fill, right? You say, yeah, you're definitely guaranteed this halftime here, but this other, if the board, and I would certainly support that, if the board says, let's commit to making sure we have that in the budget next year, then it's not a half and half. But that's what the commitment we'd have to make, is that we're going to fund it locally next year. And is that more attractive for a candidate? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not sure adding, the remainder of the position for this year, but then maybe it goes back, gets you the goal of attracting people you want. I don't know. No to ask that question.
Yeah, I mean, I get. But I agree with you, but isn't that a question for ourselves a month ago about that? In other words, to say, like, if we were going to put that .5 guidance in that reserve account, in other words, we've already said we've created the reserve account to do just that, and now we're being asked to do it.
Well, I don't think we would have.
assumed we might need to do.
I don't think. Is there anything that says we can't strike the 1 year position piece?
No. And we would find the money. Next would just be there. That's up to the board.
I mean, typically what happens in reserve account aside, right? So when we came to you for the special ed teacher that we funded out of local entitlement, we did it as a 1 year only with the anticipation that when we come back to the next budget process, we're going to ask for that teacher. That was the Mass Landing special ed teacher that we had in the budget this year. So when we do it, what we would consider off cycle to the budget, we don't automatically make the assumption that that position is going to be part of what we would consider the turnkey budget in a future year, right? We would bring it back to the board for consideration during the budget to keep those funds there if the need still existed. So it's a similar format here, and we had said this when we were talking about establishing the reserve accounts, is if the positions were needed, we would come to the board, but we understood it to be, we would come to the board in that same manner of posting it as a 1 year position, so that when we came back to the next budget cycle, we would make sure that the position was still needed and then ask to fully fund it in the local budget moving forward.
Okay.
Nothing stops you from amending it and making it that. You're basically just saying, Kelly, when you make the budget for next year, definitely include that half position, and it's part of what we would consider the turnkey budget in the overall pro forma increase in salaries and benefits and wages.
Okay. I've just never seen us split one position into part of it's permanent and part of it's 1 year. I mean, that piece, that explanation of why we do it that way makes a lot of sense, because I do think the conversation should be had for all of these before they're just automatically included in the budget. I just don't know if it impacts the recruiting ability, but I guess there's a way to find out.
And we would be certainly would entertain and support if you want to put that in the just put it in and say it's not an anticipated. It will be trickier. Is there a need for additional support for kids for mental health? Absolutely, we know that. We've heard that. We've seen that. So I think that that's certainly something that we would be willing to, when we're looking at our budget and squeezing pennies next year, to be certainly responsive to the taxpayers, that we would make sure that that was in there.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to strike the 1 year only.
So
part
you're
and
going
make
to
that permanent.
amend the motion?
Amend the motion.
Yep.
Yes. I think Will has tried to fill this position with the idea of it being a full-time role, because the needs are there, and I would be really surprised if the findings would be that it does not need to be a full-time position. I would love to see that support fully staffed.
So do we just, is the motion to just strike the 1 year position piece? Do we need to make any other changes to the motion, or does that do it?
You would amend the motion to strike 1 year only, and then you would need a second.
Oh, no, yeah. I know how we vote for it. I just want to make sure we don't need to change any other wording in the motion other than. Okay. Okay. All right, so Kara made a motion to amend to strike the 1 year position. Do we have a second for that, Carolyn? All right, so we have a first and a second for the amendment. Any questions on the amendment? And yep.
I guess it's all. I guess it's related to the amendment, but I think it's also related to just this whole section of D through G of just whether it's now or whether it's August or whether it's when we first start looking at the budget process next year, of just sort of checking in with ourselves about the reserve account process and kind of what, because I think we did have a lot of conversations about whether the creation of the reserve accounts were where there were a very like fiscally sound and like good strategy, but we're effectively creating a situation where next year we have to fund it. And I guess I just wanted to sort of acknowledge that we are now looking at that situation where we now know that we are, and I think that's great, and I'm all in favor of that. I'm all in favor of the amendment. But I think just to sort of check in with ourselves about how that works as a process. And again, I know there are larger questions about just in general, how do we look at the whole playing field and figure out how do we construct a budget that is meeting our needs and is responsible to the taxpayers. I just wanted to flag that.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, I don't think any of us, well, I certainly didn't expect that we would be looking at moving money from the reserve accounts so quickly in this process. Typically, the contingency, if we need it, is used later in the year, maybe occasionally in the summer, but not frequently. But I think it just acknowledges sort of a different approach to how we built the budget, right? So where we might have been a little more build in a little more room. If it was questionable, we would add it before, as opposed to saying, well, we won't add it, but we'll put it in the reserve. So we probably over budgeted in other times, right? And didn't see the need to access the contingency as much as we're seeing now, trying to be a lot tighter in like, what do we need? What do we absolutely need? And then sort of the maybes went into the reserves. But I 100% agree that we're creating an interesting situation for next year's budget cycle. If we choose to keep these positions, it might really limit other things we could or would want to do next year because of financial reasons. Okay, so our vote is on the amendment. So not the overall motion, but just to amend to strike the 1-year position portion of the amendment that's on or the motion that's on the floor. So a yes would be we're going to change the motion. A no would be we want to keep the original motion. All right? Did I get that right, Maura? I see. All right. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay, so none opposed. So now the motion is now amended to read consideration and approval to authorize the superintendent to hire a .5 guidance counselor at the Durham Community School for the 24-25 school year, funding to come from the Article 5 reserve account. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we vote on the main motion? All right. All those in favor? None opposed. Great. Okay. So, G. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to authorize the superintendent to hire up to 7 educational technicians, 1-year positions, funding to come from Article 2 reserve accounts? Kelly and Mara, thank you.
So as I shared with you this year, we have struggled to fill educational technician openings throughout the year. At this very moment in time, as of this evening, we have 10 openings, which are funded through already funded through the local budget and also through the local entitlement grant. As you know, we placed seven additional ed tech positions in a reserve account. One was for the specialized program at Moore Street that we authorized us to hire a teacher for, and then there were 6 district-wide. As we shared during the budgeting process, part of the thought process was it didn't make sense to add those positions to the local budget and increase the tax burden as we were struggling to fill the positions that we already had. We're asking for authorization to hire up to 7 out of the reserve accounts after and only after we have filled our 10 openings. And we don't need those. We're going to certainly review again at this time with children we know, children we have, and incoming children. We believe they're needed. Certainly, we would not hire any of those folks until we've hired those other 10.
Is this similar to the authorization to hire over the summer? If we weren't, sort of adjourning for the summer, would this motion be here?
If I was still bringing people, we would wait and do it then. I think the timing, I think that's astute, Michelle. The timing is I have to ask to do it. I know there's a need, and if I have to wait until August, then we know we're not going to get ed techs. Maybe if we get the 10, I would be thrilled if I got the 10 that we have in the budget right now. I'd do cartwheels with that. But if I could get the one more, that would be great. If I got all of them, that would be fantastic. I truly don't believe we're going to be able to find all those people. Although RSU5 for the public watching, RSU5 is a wonderful place to work. We'd like to have you come join our team. And the same with parties like the guidance counselor. If we waited, we're going to lose a pool. Such as we noticed with the Mass Landing when I came to you at the end of the summer. It's just the people already accepted positions. So that's why I was asking ahead of time to have permission to do that. Because certainly looking at what we analyze for a need, there's a need. And we just don't want to have to wait if there are great applicants out there right now who want to join us.
So since we already voted that we're giving you permission to hire anyone through the summer, these are really here because we're approving pulling the money from the reserve accounts. Okay.
Yeah, so the 10 that are already open and existing, we've given her the ability to hire those with the earlier vote. This would be to move the money and hire an additional 7 on top of those 10 openings. So since we look at historical stuff over the summer, what has been our usual pickup of ed techs over the summer?
I think it all depends on. Sometimes we'll gain some and then we'll lose some. Sometimes we've waited very late in the year during the summer to even post, and some candidates have already picked up a job somewhere else. We have posted the ones that we know we have, and we actually have had some applicants, so that's hopeful. We just don't want to wait too late for that, because again, they want to know where they're going to be. Knowing that there may be other folks that say, yes, I want to work here at RSU5 right now on July 7th, and then come August when we say we can't wait to see you at the opening, they've said, oh, I've decided not to come. So that happens too.
This is the one I'm struggling with the most. This is a lot of positions. I certainly understand the one that's tied to the special education teacher we've already hired. My preference would be to make this the ability to hire one out of the reserve to tie to that special ed teacher. And if you miraculously fill 11, I would be happy to meet, and you had more candidates, I would be happy for us to meet and authorize the others. 6 additional positions for me when we don't think we're going to have, because once we do this, they're sort of released from the barn, right? I mean, then we don't see them again necessarily until next budget season where we decide if we want to keep them or not, right?
Correct.
So I don't know. I don't know what people's feelings are.
I guess my feeling with this is because there are so many openings already, and we're approving some openings on top of that. And as you said, it's rather unlikely that we fill all of them anyways. I don't really see a problem in approving this because if we can get them all, awesome. Like, that puts us in a much better place. And it sounds like it's unlikely to happen anyways. So I just don't know if by approving it, it'll really even make a difference.
My understanding is that these positions are needed positions this year as well as next year, and so it sounds like we will need to keep them if we can fill them, right? So it's not like we're putting ourselves in a position where we're going to be hiring people that we wouldn't need in a future budget season anyway. Is that right? So I guess I would be in favor of approving this, and if we get all of them filled miraculously, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my recollection is that we moved these 7 positions out of the existing budget as a way of sort of giving ourselves some flexibility, but it wasn't by doing that we weren't saying we don't need them. We're basically saying we need them, but it was based on availability. So I think this is we created this fund to be able to do this. It's sort of the only purpose that it exists. It's like to enable us to hire these people who we know we need, but we were, again, trying to find a creative way around it. I don't think there was any question that we need these positions.
And it doesn't move from the reserve if we don't hire them?
Correct.
Stays there.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I ask if there are any new strategies that are being implemented this year to recruit ed techs?
That's a great question. And I think one thing that we're trying this summer is a hiring fair where we do on-the-spot interviews. We help people with applications, and that we will have, certainly for ed techs, we'll have principals involved in that. We'll have human resources
August
there.
8th, Mass Landing.
August 8th, we're purposely
2
doing it
p.m.
Mass Landing because there's a playground there, and perhaps if there are
2 to
families
5,
that have children,
August 8th,
they
Mass
can
Landing
they can
Playground.
play.
Please tell everybody.
So and we'll advertise, tons of ways to get that out there. So that's one thing we're trying different this year. And I do know from, other, throughout the state that the two hardest positions to fill are ed techs and bus drivers. So we are unfortunately not unique in that.
And can you also remind us if the pay for ed techs was voted at the state level to increase this year? And are you able to say more about that?
It was. It was approved. I don't know when it would go into effect. It wouldn't be this budget year anyway. But our understanding is that our levels were already above what those thresholds were anyway.
Yeah, I agree with what's already been said about approving this. I'm in support of it. I just wanted to take the opportunity to plug the new end of school year. Is that the correct ESY? Extended school year, sorry, program rates that are $30 an hour for ed techs and $48.63 for teachers. Just if members of the public are watching and you know someone who might be interested, we're hiring for those positions, and those rates were increased this year. And so we'd love to have somebody come on over the summer and then stay right through to the fall. Yeah.
And I think the other strategy that we were talking about in finance that we want to talk to everybody about, if you have previous years of experience, those do count when we're placing you on the wage scale as well within that position. So if you're in another district for 5 years, you would come with that 5 years of experience and be able to be placed on that level 5 for us as well. So
Good call. Carolyn.
Another benefit that I think would be really appealing to these people, which I've been talking to the town planner about. I'm no longer getting responses, but figuring out affordable housing is going to be huge, because I know for a fact there are some employees right now at RSU5 that are having trouble with finding affordable housing. And I think if we are able to offer a reliable solution, be like, we have this, I think that would be, just knowing how important housing is to the every other aspect of the people in my life, that would be huge. And if anyone else wants to email the town planner and just help, maybe I'll get a response.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely sounds like a topic we would include in the strategic planning, right? I don't know of any districts. I know of businesses that have built housing. Jackson Labs is one that comes to mind. They built housing for employees because finding things on Bar Harbor is essentially impossible unless you want to spend a fortune. So I don't know of any school districts that have done it, but it's an interesting idea that we should, certainly think about. Okay, so can I ask that if we sort of release these from the barn/reserve account, that you keep us updated on sort of the numbers, because for me, I'm just interested in thinking about, where are we really starting next year's budget from? And I think, this is several $100,000. That could be meaningful if we were able to fill them all. So if you could just keep us updated, because once these come out, we don't really see them again until you have a candidate that comes before us, or maybe we don't at all if you're able to get them all over the summer. So I would just be interested in hearing that update. All right. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? None opposed. All right. Organizational business. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to we're doing them separate? Okay. A chair for the RSU number 5 Board of Directors to take effect July 1, 2024. Beth, Cheyenne, thank you. So who's not here that we want to nominate? Danielle.
I nominate you, Michelle.
Yeah, the vacant seat. We'll really get interested parties to volunteer then.
I would like to nominate Michelle.
Anyone else want? Third. Yeah. I actually really enjoy the work. Jean makes it very easy. Jenny, Kelly, the whole office makes it very easy to do my part in the non-meeting duties of this job. So, and the meeting duties too. Sorry, Jenny, if you're watching. Just keep Jenny happy. That's my job. No, I'm happy to do it. If that's the feeling of the board, I'm happy with that. Okay. All those in favor? I'll tell Danielle she didn't win. All right, so do I have a motion for consideration and approval to appoint a vice chair for the RSU number 5 Board of Directors to take effect July 1, 2024? Mara and Malik, thank you.
I would nominate Beth again if she's willing.
Oh, thank you. I am willing. Thank you.
All right. Any other nominations for the floor?
Nobody else wants to run a meeting occasionally.
In Pownell. I know. I promise I'll be in Pownell next year. They're going to think I don't like them there. It just seems to always work out that way. All right. All right. So all those in favor, Beth is vice chair for next year. Thank you very much. All right. So now we will do the slate of committees sort of all at once. We won't do them individually. So do I have a motion for consideration and approval to add, delete, and or consolidate committees and make annual appointments? What am I? I know. I think is that what it usually says? I think so.
Down way at the bottom, like the next page.
Well, what's this part then?
Well, I mean, that's who.
You're saying, you're just saying you didn't know where to write it. Got it. Okay. So are you making the motion?
Sure.
Okay. And Carolyn, thank you. Okay. So this is where we can move committees, pick up committees, change committees. We'll also sort of revisit it in the fall when we have a new person from Durham that's appointed by the select board for next year. But typically in the first year, new board members, unless they've been on the board in the past, are usually sort of picking up some of the smaller, easier ones while they get their feet under them for the board in general. So I think it makes sense to just tackle this now, and then we can add them in the fall once we know who that is. So negotiations. So we don't next year's a good year. No negotiations next year. It's a great year to be on the negotiations committee if anybody's interested. So really, the only role for this in a sort of an off-cycle year is if there was a question about the contract that came forward or a change or something like that, we might pull together the folks that are on these committees, depending on where the question or change comes from, the professional or support staff. But otherwise, this is a pretty easy lift for next year. So myself, Danielle, and Maura are currently on the professional, the one we just finished. Danielle messaged me earlier with her committee information. She said she's happy to stay on that one, particularly since it doesn't, and I generally do that one as well. So support staff, this one is wide open. So if we could at least have one, like, ideally 2 on the support staff one, just in case something came up. Anyone's interested? Okay. So I'm seeing Carolyn. Anyone else? Malik? Okay. So policy, this is Colin, Kara, and previously was Candy. So this is one where we usually have 3 folks. You guys meet on Friday mornings, right? Yep. So there is an opening for that one with Candy's departure. That is one Danielle said she was interested in. I don't know if other folks are as well. She said she could make that work with her work schedule and stuff. So I don't know if anyone else wants policy.
Yeah, just quickly on that. I think it's a great committee. We have a good time, and we get a lot done. We're very efficient. We're really efficient. Cynthia reminds us of that all the time. That we get a lot more done than they used to get done, which is not true. We did have a conversation as a committee in our last meeting that just since Kara and I both are representatives from Freeport, would be encouraging of a representative from one of the other 2 towns to join us rather than. I'm not seeing a lot of Freeport folks jumping up anyway, but just to say that I think that if there was a lot of interest from Freeport, we might want to sort of think about the sort of overall composition of that committee.
Okay, so I'm hearing that Colin and Kara both want to stay on policy. Yes. Okay. Anyone else interested? All right, we'll put Danielle down for that one. Finance, currently Beth chairs this committee, myself and Maura. This is really the only one by policy that we have one from each town. That's always been the way we've done it. So other than that, it's more sort of like Colin said, we try to mix it up. But this one is one where it's very specific in the makeup, is one from each town. Danielle did not mention she was interested in that one. And we won't make the vacant person do it, so I'll stick for Durham. Carolyn?
I forgot. I was going to volunteer to be the representative from Freeport.
Okay. All right. Malik, you want to thumb wrestle Beth for it? You good?
I was going to say I volunteer for Beth to continue.
Yep.
I was just looking over there, and I knew I was seeing no signs of like, hey, I want it.
Okay. So you and I will stay, and we will add Carolyn to that one. So those ones meet the second meeting of the month, right before this meeting. Yep. Okay. Strategic communications, also 2 to 3 members. Currently, Kelly and Kara. Candy was also on this one, so there's a vacancy there. I do think this one probably makes sense to have 3. Do you guys feel the same?
Yeah, I think we'll be doing a lot around the strategic planning this next year, so it'd be great to have a 3rd person.
Yeah. So who's interested in strategic communications? Kara? Sure.
So we have we review the staff satisfaction survey, which we did 2 years ago, but that I think we do it every 3 years, so that wouldn't be coming up this year. Is that right? Or is it every 2 years?
It has been. During COVID, it changed a little bit, so it can be in every other year. But the last talk we had at the committee is that we know we're going to be doing a lot of surveying of a lot of people and talking to a lot of people, that we wouldn't do an additional one because there'll be input through that process.
Yeah. So we won't be doing that in particular. Same thing with the parent survey. We've been responsible for that, and reviewing the budget packet and making sure that that is clearly worded and laid out for the community. But yeah, strategic planning is what we'll be really focusing on this coming year, which means a lot of community communication and surveying.
And when do you guys meet?
Varies. I think we're on Fridays.
It's usually
Wednesdays?
a Tuesday or Wednesday at 8:45 to 10ish, depending on what the committee. It's kind of according to what the committee's schedule is.
Okay.
And every 1 to 2 months, it seems like.
Okay. Okay. Not that one? Okay. Mar.
I'd be happy to join that one.
Great. All right. Facilities and operations. This one is new this year. It meets on the alternating from finance, the first board meeting of the month, just before our meeting. Currently, it is Kelly, Malik, and myself. Kelly chairs that committee currently. And most of the work this year has really been around just sort of building the committee, getting an understanding of what we have, and what did we do?
Energy audit.
The energy audit. There it is. The words are not coming. I'm sorry. Yeah, so the energy audit. So I think a lot of the work next year will be really still digging into that energy audit and sort of prioritizing projects and that kind of thing. So is anyone fired up for that one and dying to jump on? Or I will ask Malik and Kelly if you guys are interested in staying on. Yep. All right. If nobody wants to fight me for my seat, I'll keep it on that committee. But if someone is really interested, I'm happy to give it up if they want it. So we'll keep those three. Stipend review. This is Beth and Kara. You guys were the group that reviewed the new stipend forms that come in. I don't know the sort of frequency.
It's very as needed. I feel like we've met a couple. I actually missed that meeting, but we've only met a couple of times, and it's when a need bubbles up, and then Ginny will send out an email and check people's availability and just find a time that we can all meet and discuss it.
And this one was a committee that had significantly more work in prior years, because they really went through and sort of revamped all of the stipends we have to make sure that they were all originally approved with certain numbers, but really going back and making sure, okay, we said this was a 5-point, which equates to so many hours a year of work. Is it still that? Is it more? Is it less? And they went through all the stipends and did that probably 2 years ago, or 2 and 3 years ago, because it took a fair amount of time to get done. So now it's more sort of normal care and feeding of the stipends. That makes sense.
I'm happy to stay on it, but of course, if somebody else is interested, feel free.
It's a good visual, isn't it? Little stipends out in the fields. Anybody else ready for summer? Okay, so I'm not seeing anybody jumping for those, so we'll keep Kara and Beth unless I hear otherwise on that one. All right. So Region 10, here's a big one. So the Region 10 Technical High School Board is a whole separate board, school board for the Region 10 school. We have 2 seats on that board, and they can be made up of 2 board members or 1 board member and a community member. I think historically we've preferred to have 2 board members, but sometimes it's been difficult to get to because it meets monthly on Monday evenings. I don't know the exact time, but Monday board meeting time. And Candy and Colin have done it this past year, and Candy has stayed on since she got off. She's just serving as the community member as opposed to the board member, so which we appreciate. So first I'm going to look to Colin to see if he would like to stay.
I would.
Great.
I enjoy it a great deal, and I would encourage all of you, everybody should come on board. No, I think it's a really important. It's really important work, and I think there's just a lot that it has taught me about sort of again the larger patterns that not only Region 10 but our school is connected to in terms of what our students are going to be, the world they're going to be going into, and how we're preparing them for it. So it is 6:30 Monday nights. You can join it virtually. That is so it's a hybrid meeting, and there also are some committee appointments that again are not required, but then those usually again fall either virtually or right before the meeting. I'm on the finance committee for that one, so that meets at 6 p.m. So and there's some folks who have never, during my time, have never come to an in-person meeting, and they're just always joining virtually. So it seems to be very much run in that way.
And for folks who don't know, Region 10 is in Brunswick, so that's where the in-person meetings are. It's that way. For anyone watching at home, it's that way. Okay. So we have Colin. We do need another for the Region 10 board. Does that sound interesting to anyone else? Anyone interested in grabbing that one? Okay, this is one we have to have somebody for, or we need to find a community member. Yeah?
It's that way. Oh, yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I'm confused. I thought you said Candy was staying on as the
No,
community.
she just
She
agreed
did
to
through
stay
this
on
year.
through the end of the
Yeah,
through-
through the end of
I'm
the year.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Candy.
Yep.
I will also just say, as a plug for it, just to keep you interested, Cheyenne, the chair of the Region 10 board is really interested in having very efficient meetings. That's a real principle.
Also, you get free treats from the culinary arts department, and they're usually pretty good. Well, they're always delicious. I mean,
That's true, and also you then get to go to the family night when there's a competition to see who can take the wheels off of a 4-wheeler fastest, and it's so awesome. I don't do it. We watch other people do it.
But could you do it? Could you win for us?
I could not do it, but I bet. Well, Cheyenne and I will train.
I have lots of practice. I've got this year.
Okay. So I'm seeing Colin and Cheyenne for that one, and Kara's the alternate for the snacks. So Dropout Prevention Committee, Boost. This one is one that Beth has done.
It's very low commitment, I guess I would say. The format of it has changed a little bit, and basically the school board member shows up at one meeting at the beginning of the school year and one meeting at the end of the school year. So all of the confidential information that's discussed is not discussed with us, which I think is fantastic. But it's not a huge lift, but it's also an incredible huge boost. Yeah, right. It's not a huge boost. But it's really an incredible group of people that care really deeply for helping all of our students graduate. And so it's really awesome to just witness what they're doing and how they work together and the thinking outside the box to get all of our kids across Merrill Auditorium stage. So I'm happy to stay on it, but if somebody else has an interest in it, I'm happy to give it up as well.
Well, that's something that I would like to take over, if you're willing to give it up.
I sure am.
All right. See why this is called horse trading night. All right. So Freeport Cable TV Board. This is one where we had always advertised, no pun intended, that it was super easy because it hadn't met in 11 years. But now it meets on a monthly basis. Susanna was the most recent person last year to go on the board. Carolyn took over her spot when she joined, and we completely bait and switched her. And then all of a sudden, they started having meetings at a time that didn't work. So Susanna has actually sort of stayed on as a community member on the board. So she's sort of given us some information about it. But so my understanding is that it's an evening meeting, 6 o'clock during the week. What night could change based on the members, but it is sort of dinner time for folks. So monthly meetings. And this is one we have to have somebody on because we get funding from it. So, yeah.
I can just add the few things that I know to make this sound more appealing. They're virtual. You have to visualize them in your head. So they're meeting right now. It's once a month. It may become more frequent. That is something that they have talked about. So just be forewarned about that. They're working right now, going through a lot of brainstorming decision making regarding negotiating contract with Comcast right now. That sounds like it's kind of the primary thing. I'm not sure the speed with which they're working with, so I don't know the energy input level. But that's kind of what I know. They're all very, very nice people. Yeah, that's what I know.
Does this sound enticing to anyone? Yeah. This is what we're going to give the new person from Durham. We'll put the Durham person on the Freeport Cable Board.
I mean, that's funniest. So I
It
think
is. We should do
that's
that.
funny,
Yeah. I think we do have to have someone on the board between now and then, since we don't have a person. Yeah.
I'm happy to stay on there until the new person comes, just with the understanding that I would like to get off of it. But I can stay on there now just to make sure that we're still
Covered.
Still covered.
Okay. And then we can revisit that in the fall. Wellness Committee. This one's Kelly.
Yeah, this has been an extremely low commitment committee this year. I think we met maybe twice. And that may change with the coming in of a new nutritional director. So that person may decide to meet more frequently. But at this point, the only thing we really did this last year was to review the wellness policy, and that was about it.
You want to keep it? You want to give it up? What are you feeling?
I'll stay with it unless somebody else wants it.
All right. So we'll keep, I don't even know what page I'm on. It's going over here. Okay. Yep. So we'll keep Kelly on that one. So diversity, equity, inclusion right now is Malik and Colin. I'll look to you guys if that's something you want to keep, something you want to change.
I'm happy to stay on. I enjoy being on the committee, but also happy to give somebody else an opportunity if they're excited about that.
Anyone interested in that? Okay. You're good to stay?
I'm good to stay.
You guys want to?
I was gonna arm wrestle somebody to stay, so it sounds like I don't have to now.
I think you could easily beat Colin, so we're going to just give you the win. And so strong. All right. So curriculum and program development, this was the other new committee that was created this year. This had 2 board members on it, so it was Candy and Danielle. Danielle is interested in staying on that one. I think originally we had hoped for, the original charge was 3 times a year. I don't think that quite happened this year, but we'll be shooting for at least that going forward. And then the other question is 2 people from the board the right amount? Right? Yeah. Do we want more folks on that? Carolyn?
I just had a question about this. So I see that the description in the paper, it says that you're updated kind of with a consistent summary of what's happening in the curriculum. Does this committee help steer the curriculum as well, or just keep tabs on actuals versus the plan?
I love your finance brain. Actuals versus the plan. Yeah, no. So I think at this point it's more been informational sharing. What'd you call it? A sit and get, or get and sit? A sit and get. Not as much directional. Whether that could change, I'm not sure. I think perhaps as potential curriculum changes are being considered in the district, I think it would make a lot of sense for that committee to be involved maybe earlier than the full board, or doing some work to support that work. I don't know what that might look like. But at this point, I don't think it's really giving any direction in terms of the curriculum, the way it's set today. Colin?
Yeah, I think on that, and just based on my sort of understanding of the sort of committee structure in general, is I think that standing committees are committees wherein the board and the board representatives have more agency and a more decision-making power, whereas the other category does not. And that, again, that's not necessarily a hard and fast rule, but I think that's just generally how I've kind of been able to categorize that in my mind. So I think if we were to decide in the future that we wanted to have a curriculum committee that was doing more sort of direction, I think we might be looking at perhaps shifting it out of an other category.
I don't even know where these. Oh, this guy. Okay. On the other side of this. Other? No. Oh, okay. So DEI and curriculum. Okay. Oh, so we made facilities and operations a standing, but we made curriculum an other. I see. Okay. I'd never made that distinction in my brain. Thank you for that, Colin.
I'm not necessarily saying that it's absolutely accurate, textbook accurate, but I think that's the way
It
that
sounds
that's the way.
about right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I said it with confidence, with white
Yeah.
male confidence.
Oh, she called you mediocre.
I'll take mediocre. I'll take mediocre.
Some
On this
days-
particular day,
some
I will
days
take
that's
mediocre.
That's good enough. Yep. Okay. So we have an open spot because that is another one that Candy had previously held. Anyone interested in joining Danielle on curriculum and program development? Okay. Carolyn? Yeah.
I'd also be interested in discussing that potentially being a standing committee, but maybe, at our retreat or something like that. Maybe not today.
Yeah. Okay. And I think probably with that might include the addition of another person from the, I think, right? I mean,
I think you could add a person.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we had someone else, are you interested in it more?
I would be happy to be on it if you're looking for a third person. I don't want to take.
Yeah, I would just say I think that is a committee that I think not hierarchically, but I think as we're going to go through the strategic planning process next year, I think that having more minds engaged in that one would probably be helpful to inform the strategic planning process in terms of how the curriculum, sort of how the board understands the curriculum aspects of that. So I think if we had 3 members on that, I think that would be really helpful, particularly next year as we figure out the next couple of years.
Yeah. So Maura on that one? Okay. Anyone want to be the attorney? Are we good with Drummond Woodsum? No. Any doctors? No? So Danielle's the closest. She's not here, so we'll go with Ms. Phelps, Dr. Phelps. Okay. So I'm just going to run through them real quick to make sure we wrote them all down. So professional negotiations, we're going to keep myself, Danielle, and Maura. Support staff will be Carolyn and Malik. Policy will be Kara, Colin, and Danielle. Finance will be myself, Beth, and Carolyn. Strategic communications will be Kelly, Kara, and Maura. Facilities and operations will maintain Kelly, Malik, and myself. Stipend review will stay Beth and Kara. Region 10 will be Colin and Cheyenne. The boost will be Cheyenne. Cable TV board will be Carolyn, with the understanding that we will fix that in the fall. Wellness will maintain with Kelly. DEI will be Cheyenne and Malik. Curriculum and program development will be Danielle, Carolyn, and Maura. School attorney will be Drummond Woodsum, and school physician will be Dr. Stephanie Phelps. So we already have a motion and we have a second on the floor for all of those. Everyone comfortable with that? All right. And if anybody has any second thoughts, we'll be revisiting in the fall with our new person. So we'll have a mini horse trading opportunity then. Okay. All those in favor? None opposed. Great. Thank you. All right. Here we go. Personnel. Would folks be open to me doing a motion with all of the hiring together instead of doing them all individually? Okay, great. So, do I have a motion for consideration and approval to employ a 4th grade teacher at the Mass Landing School for the 24-25 school year? To employ a music teacher at the Mass Landing School for the 24-25 school year? To employ an assistant principal at the Freeport Middle School for the 24-25 school year? To employ a music teacher at Freeport Middle and High School for the 24-25 school year? To employ a social worker at Freeport High School for the 24-25 school year? To employ a 4th grade teacher at the Mass Landing School for the 24-25 school year? To employ a special education teacher at the Mass Landing School for the 24-25 school year? Do we have another one from the one we removed? Okay, and then we didn't have another one. Okay, I wasn't sure if we added one in the adjustments. Okay, so all of those, do we have a motion? Carolyn, and a second, Beth? Trying to be more like the Region 10 person, being efficient.
All right. I will go through these one at a time. So let's talk first of all about our 4th grade teacher at Mass Landing. Our candidate is Kayla McGinley. Kayla has a BS in elementary education with a concentration in English from St. Joseph's College. She is certified as a K-8 teacher. Relevant experience. She's been an Ed Tech 3 at Kids Peace New England in Ellsworth. She's been a teacher in grades 5 and 3 at Glenburn Elementary School. And she is currently in a grade 4 teaching position at Mass Landing that was a 1-year only position. So we are looking to bring her on full time. References describe Kayla as passionate about teaching, organized, setting the bar high, energized, going above and beyond to create a positive, inclusive learning environment that fosters growth. She has creativity and critical thinking. So that is Kayla. Moving on, our music teacher from Mass Landing School is Katie McFarland. Katie has a Bachelor of Music in Music Education from the University of Maine and a Master of Arts in Music Education from Adams State University in Colorado. She holds certification in Maine as a K-12 music teacher. Her professional experience, she's been a teacher for K-4 music in grades 5 and 6 beginner band at Poland Community School. She's been a teacher for K-5 music and grades 4 and 5 chorus at Reiki Community School in Portland. References describe Katie as highly organized, thoughtful in her planning, targeted in what she hopes to accomplish. She understands the developmental aspects of content. She's reflective and able to move in a positive direction, and she builds positive relationships with students. Okay. Our next one is an assistant principal at Freeport Middle School, which is going to be a familiar name to you, Dr. Paige Fournier. Paige has a BS in Special Education in Elementary College, Long Island University, New York, a Master's in Special Education, New England College in Henniker, New Hampshire, and she has received her doctorate in K-12 Leadership in New England College, Henniker, New Hampshire. Her teaching experience, she's been a special education teacher at Lyman Moore Middle School in Portland. She's been a special education teacher right at Freeport Middle School, and she's currently an instructional coach at Freeport Middle School in Durham. And if you all recall, when we had a little bit of shuffle of administrators when Mr. Walsh went to be the interim at Mass Landing last spring and this fall, Paige was the interim assistant principal at Freeport Middle School. References describe Paige as approachable, collaborative, compassionate, hardworking, reflective, hungry for learning, has great solution and new ideas, and she is student-centered. On to our next one, which is the music teacher at Freeport Middle School and Freeport High School. It is Dana Reynolds. Dana has a Bachelor of Music and Music Education from the University of Maine in Orono. She's applied for her K-12 music teacher certification. She's been a long-term sub in music at elementary schools in the Maranacook area schools in RSU 38. She's student taught in Brunswick, and she's student taught in Mass Landing as well. References describe Dana as always welcoming feedback. She's a talented singer. She works well with others. She's energetic. She understands choral pedagogy. She connects well with students. She's very organized and reliable, and she works hard to create a positive environment. Our social worker at Freeport High School is Rachel Lira. Rachel has a bachelor's in sociology with a concentration in social work from St. Joseph's College in Standish. She also has a master's of social work from the University of Southern Maine in Portland. She is licensed as a clinical social worker in the state of Maine. Professional experience, she has a home and community-based treatment clinician from Province Human Services in Scarborough. She's had school-based health center clinician at Lewiston Middle School. She's been a special education social worker at Lewiston Middle School, and she has been a general ed social worker at Kennebunk High School in RSU 21. References describe Rachel as having unparalleled dedication, compassion, and expertise in the field. She has a unique ability to connect with individuals from all walks of life and exceptional interpersonal skills, and she works tirelessly to help students feel safe and be able to learn in the school setting. The other fourth grade teacher at Mass Landing will be a familiar name as well, Ridgely Eckhart. Ridgely has a BS in Early Childhood Education from Susquehanna University in Pennsylvania and a Master's in Curriculum Instruction from Castleton University in Vermont. She is certified as a K-6 general elementary teacher. There we go. Relevant experience. She has been a pre-K-6 English teacher in Thailand. She's taught grade 5 in Malden, Massachusetts, and grade 4 at Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union, Bennington, Vermont. And she was also a 1-year only grade 4 position, and she will be staying on with us. References describe Ridgely as a strong communicator, implementing trauma-informed practices to support, using data to inform decisions. She's highly respected among her peers, an exemplary educator, having positive and supportive relationships with learners, parents, and community members. And then our special education teacher at Mass Landing is Gabriel Henke. She has a Bachelor's of Art in Elementary Ed with a minor in Disabilities Studies from the University of Delaware and a Master's in Reading from Montclair State University in New Jersey. She is certified as a K-8 element general teacher and a teacher of students with disability in New Jersey, and she has applied for her main certification. Her professional experience has been that she has been a special education teacher at Waldwick School District in Waldwick, New Jersey. References describe Gabrielle as a strong educator, working well with teachers and parents. She's positive, reflective in her practice. She has incredible engagements with students. Kids know they can count on her. She's collaborative, a quiet leader, approachable, and she is warm and welcoming. I'll just say that how very pleased I've had opportunity to do second interviews with all these candidates, and how very pleased I am from these group of folks and also our other spring hiring. We have some fantastic people joining RSU5.
What we didn't take into account to lump them all into one motion was all the talking you had to do. Sorry about that.
That's okay. It's all right.
Without a break for a vote.
That's okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor for all of these positions. We've now heard about all of them. Any questions or comments before the vote? Colin?
Two comments. One, I'm really excited about this slate of candidates, and thank you for all the hard work and all the committees that were part of that process. Also, just to say on the hiring of the Freeport Middle and Freeport High School position, my daughter was asked to be part of the group of students that saw the mock lessons for both candidates. And the candidates were both fantastic, she reported. And B, I just think that it was really just to see her reaction to that process and to feel like her voice really mattered, and to be able to also create connections between the middle school students and the high school students at that moment. That just seemed really exciting, and I just want to say please continue that process. Hopefully we won't need to do it for a music teacher for forever, but also just for any other positions where that's maybe not currently part of the practice. I think it's a really healthy one.
And that's a great comment, Colin. I just would say the board as well is that when we are looking at teaching staff, we ask them to come in and be a guest teacher. So maybe some of your children had a guest teacher at some point, that so they have the opportunity for our staff to really look at them in practice, which has been really helpful.
All right. Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments? All right. All those in favor of the slate? Great. None opposed. All right. So we are back to public comment. All right. We will move on to number 17. Do I have a motion for consideration and approval to enter into executive session as outlined in 1 MRSA as outlined in 1 MRSA section 4056A for the purpose of discussing the superintendent's evaluation? Beth and Carolyn, thank you. All those in favor? None opposed. All right, so we will, move into the other room for executive session. It is 8:14. Since we will turn off the cameras, we will wish everyone at home a wonderful summer, and we'll see you in the fall.